If you buy a new car, borrow your friends, even rent one, you may be presented with a handy-dandy aux jack like this one. It lets you hook up your music player to the car's stereo system, but you need to have an aux cable to connect them. It only costs about $6 or $7, but it's a hassle. You got to go down to the store, stand in line, drive. Even buying them online presents you with the risks of identity theft. There's a way to get around it if you got a couple unused headphones. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make a free stereo aux cable out of a pair of old earbuds you don't use anymore. Here's a bunch of old headphones for you. Big pile. You probably got something like this. You want to find some headphones that ideally still work. You just don't want them anymore. More likely you've got some where one of the ears are broken. They're not ideal, but it might be okay. Just make sure you use only cable you know doesn't have a short in it. Go through and find out where that short is and cut before it. Not all headphones have the same wires inside. Some have 3, like this example, and some 4, like this one. Now, if the headphones you're cannibalizing both have the same number of wires, you just need to match them up. If they don't, we'll get to that. So here I have a pair of iPod headphones already stripped and a pair of third-party headphones. Now, as you can see, they both have red. Red usually means right. They both have green, which usually means left. And then you have these other wires. Now, the off brand has 2 copper wires. The iPod brand has 1 copper wire and a twisty red and green Christmassy wire. Those are both ground wires. With a 4-wire system, it's important to make sure the grounds are connected to the correct ground. Otherwise, you don't complete the circuit and the audio won't pass through. If you're going to try hooking up 3 to 4 wires, you're going to need to hook both grounds from here to the single ground here on the 3-wire. This is harder to make work, though. If this is getting too complicated, you might be better off just buying an aux cable, or you can get serious, borrow somebody's continuity tester, and make sure all the currents are flowing the right way. Then you can just rip off the jack and wire directly into that. For the purposes of this demonstration, I actually used 2 iPod cables, going 4 wires to 4 wires. So decide how long you want this cable to be, probably as long as possible. I'm going to go all the way back here to the split, and then just cut it right there. And do the same with your other wire. Now we have to strip off the insulation to expose the wire. This is where you should put on some protective glasses. Wire strippers are best for this, actually, because they are made for stripping wires. Although if you're really careful, you actually can strip a wire with a pair of old scissors. So we're lucky with these two. We've got the same colors on both. The color on these wires is actually a lacquer insulation. You want to strip that away or you're not going to be able to make contact. Now you can use a little sandpaper to do that, or just take a lighter and burn it off, which is a lot more fun to watch. Don't burn it all off or you won't be able to tell which color is which. Now before we go any further, I want to mention heat shrink tubing. This is what it looks like here. It'll make the wires look a little neater afterward, but a bag like this costs about $3. The reason I bring it up right now is because you want to put any tubing you're going to use on the wire before you reconnect the wires, because if it's big enough to get over this thing right here, it's actually too big to cover the wires that you're wanting to cover. You're going to notice a lot of times there's this kind of fuzzy stuff right there. You can snip those off, or once you've got them out, you can actually burn those down as well. Once you've got all the lacquer and fuzz and everything out of the way, twist those wires nice and tight together so that you've got a good connection. Now we have a choice. The quick and dirty way is to just wrap it all up with electrical tape. That's not very stable, though. You may experience a lot of shorts in your connection if you do that. The sturdiest way is to grab a soldering iron, cheap one's going to work for something like this, and just paint a little bit of solder on there and let it cool. I am so not the expert. Do not follow my example here. Go read up some professional soldering sites if you don't already know how to do this. But you just want enough that is going to hold together, unlike the electrical tape, which it can slip out of really easily. Now at this point, if you've put shrink tubes on the individual wires, you'd want to slide them over and shield them. If not, you can use a tiny bit of electrical tape to shield the wire. You want to make sure that you get all the part where you burned off the lacquer protected so that it's not actually exposed to the other wires, or else you're going to short the whole thing out. And that's what I did with this one here. Just a little bit of electrical tape. Trim that electrical tape so it's really thin. Okay, so that takes care of one. Now, you're going to have to do it for each one of these, matching up color to color. And if you did it that way, it's going to end up looking something like this. Kind of ratty, but hopefully it'll work. Then you're going to slide your shrink tubing down before it, or just wrap the whole thing up in electrical tape. Now for shrink tubes, you want to slide them down over your wires and just bring a bit of heat on them to make them shrink. Some folks use hair dryers, or you can use a lighter. If you're going to use a lighter, keep it just touching the tip, because you just want it to shrink like that. You don't want it to burn like that. That's too much. You can even, if you're really careful, use the tip of the soldering iron just to shrink it up. All right, we've got our cable. We're going to take this back to the car and try it out. Let's go. Plug one end into the aux jack, the other into the MP3 player, and enjoy your music. Now remember, it's not just the $6.36 you're saving, it's the self-reliance you feel from using electrical tape and hot tools. That's it for this edition of Hacks. I'm Tom Merritt, CNET.com.